Are you ready? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first meeting of the new year. This is dated January 6th, 2026, our first meeting for the Planning Commission. We have several items, but first we have an administrative process to go through. So if you'll bear with us for 1 second, we have to reestablish the positions of chair and vice chair. So we need a nomination for our chair. And we'll start with that.
Dan?
Nomination for Dan Cordon, second,
I'll second it.
seconded. Any other nominations for chair? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Second item is the nomination for vice chair. Currently Ann Clark. Do we need a nomination for the vice chair?
I'll nominate him.
Second for Ann?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Opposed? All right,
I'll abstain.
we're back. I voted for myself. You can vote for yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who should? All right, that's out of the way. Thank you, everyone, for letting us attend to that. Now we have some new business. Oh, we have to approve the minutes. I'm sorry, of the last meeting, which was, we didn't have a December meeting, but we had a November meeting. Are there any changes, edits, comments on the minutes for the November meeting? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes for November?
So
Moved, seconded,
Second.
second from Sean. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Now we're on to new business. The first item is Old Perry Highway Townhome Subdivision Plan, Mortgage Subdivision, Block Lot 1071E96. I know what this is. Is there a presentation? Please.
Somewhat of a presentation.
Please state your
We're-
name and go
uh,
ahead.
Don Poole, representing Poole Construction. We're here for, get the planning commission approval for a mortgage subdivision of a 3-unit townhome built on Old Perry Highway. We've recently received a letter from Gateway outlining some of their comments. Hampton Tech has responded to their comments in writing, which is in at your desk there. Any of their comments have been addressed. There were some minor issues that they had brought up. There was a few changes to the subdivision plan that Gateway requested. They have been taken care of as well.
And these were 3 homes built originally under and are now being asked to be subdivided into 3 for mortgage purposes. 3 units for mortgage purposes?
Yes.
Okay.
it looks like a full subdivision, not a condo. I mean, the lot lines go through the buildings, but they include the entire parcel, correct? It's
No,
3
each
parcels.
one will be a separate parcel.
Right, so that's not a condo.
No, it's not a
Yeah.
condo. It's a
That was-
townhome.
Yeah.
We've certainly done these before, but Kelly, what are your comments?
Sure. So I've not seen the revised responses yet. So just from our initial review, just a few items to note. So the first thing is just clear identification regarding responsibilities of the shared infrastructure, specifically the stormwater management facility, as well as inlets, pipes, etc. That will be split evenly across each of these 3 residents. We want to make sure that's clearly indicated on the plan for reporting regarding the ownership and maintenance responsibilities, as well as having that written into the deeds. And then just another note as well, the initial plan received does show a portion of the property to be dedicated to the town. However, our office did reach out to Mr. Pullen, and he did verify that that is not the case. So there is no proposed dedication to the town of land for this.
That's correct.
How about
Yeah, that note
shared
was
drive?
at,
The shared drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that's shared should be written into a operation and maintenance.
yeah, there are no
Okay.
shared drives.
So does the one property need an easement to get to their property over
No.
the driveway or
No,
no?
no.
The
Each
driveway-
unit has its own driveway. And it's
Oh, it's just a double wide drive,
That's
This-
correct.
This is the one that had one
Yeah.
curb cut for
Yeah.
2 driveways,
but wider one.
the wider
Sorry.
one,
Yeah,
because there's
okay.
no maximum throat width within the ordinance.
Yeah, and Hampton added the note that that would put in a deed that each unit owner would be responsible for a shared maintenance of the stormwater, including the level spreader in the pit.
This letter, I'm a little unclear what this letter is and when did we receive it?
So typically, just to explain the process, whenever we get an application in, there's a relative time for applicants to respond to engineering comments. That typically doesn't occur before a planning commission meeting because the amount of time it takes to get a review from our town engineer and then get sent to a different engineer, depending on the comments. Sometimes those comments cannot get addressed in time for a review. It's not untypical for an application to get submitted. Obviously, none of the planning commission members were able to review the updated plan set. However, the comments that were addressed in this letter that was received today would be reviewed post that submission by the town staff and our town engineer. And the comments that were included in the staff memo and the town engineering memo were both minimal engineering comments. So typically when there's minimal engineering comments, you come to a meeting like this, review the item that was presented and submitted originally. And then any reviews or updated plan sets would get, submitted to the town engineer for review. Once that's completed by the applicant.
Okay,
Kelly, you agree there's nothing substantial. It's just cleaning up plans.
It's just cleaning up plans to make sure things are clear in regards to long-term use, as well as just some minor items for clarification for the ordinance.
okay. Given that, I think we ought to state that any approval, if that's the way the voting were to go, is subject to, conditioned upon these items being cleaned up to the satisfaction.
Can we just, Matt, we previously set it up that whenever there's engineers' comments that need to be addressed, the motion includes,
Correct.
must meet all engineering comments.
Yep.
So if we can,
That is a standard practice for these type of motions.
right, if you are providing a motion, can you include that as part of the motion?
Well, I can't predict what the motion is going to be prior to if it's going to change.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Public-
well, let me announce what we're needing here. And that is a motion to recommend town council approve Old Perry Highway Townhome subdivision plan as submitted by Greg Schwab.
We need to check for public comment in just in case.
Okay, we will do that. Thank you. On this particular matter, is there any public comment regarding this mortgage subdivision of those of those three units? Townhomes. No public comment. All right.
Can we just modify the resolution to include meeting the town engineers,
And
please?
yeah, and that motion that I just stated is, of course, subject to what I said before. And that is that all of the changes that the town engineer wanted to see are in fact incorporated and completed. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So move to second.
Second.
Motion from Ann, second from Sean. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Thank you. The next item. The Warden Plan Lot Consolidation Minor Subdivision, Blot and Lock 825 P 243 and 825 P 241. Is there a presentation?
No, I believe you have all the materials.
Okay, then you're here for what purpose?
I'm trying to replace a deck on my house and it was out of compliance with the setback requirements. And I currently own the lot next door, which is not on the original survey when I purchased the home. So I'm trying to consolidate the lots.
Okay, and I'm sorry, state your name, please.
Lorna Warden.
Okay, Lorna Warden. Any comment from up here? We talked about this last time, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm happy to provide a little bit of context, just for the planning commission. A number of lots in the town, which are called bingo lots or smaller lots, that do not meet the standards of the town's zoning today. A number of these lots have properties that are too close to the side property line. So whenever you have somebody that wants to come and rebuild their deck, do something along the lines of adjusting their property, and that does not meet the zoning setbacks. That's why I was unable to approve a permit for this deck permit that was submitted. So Ms. Warden had to apply for a consolidation because she owns two properties that are next to each other. And consolidating these properties into one property under a consolidation would meet the setbacks for her deck and bring this property further into compliance for what it is now.
Is the replacement deck same size as the existing deck? Any questions?
Nope.
All right. The motion then that we will be discussing is a motion to recommend town council approve the Warden Plan lot consolidation as submitted by Lorna Warden. Is there public comment on this? I don't hear any. Can I have that motion? Shelley is so moved. Second?
Second.
Sean, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on. The next item on the agenda is PLC 26-03, Presidential Arms Apartment Plan, Minor Land Development, Block Lot 947K 136. And a presentation. State your name and make your presentation.
Good evening, Aaron Henderson, Remington and Vernick Engineers representing Presidential Arms Apartments. And the reason for the submission is a minor land development approval for the approval of 2 dog parks erected within the property and a rock sump to manage stormwater due to the addition of impervious area.
The dog parks are the impervious surface.
The dog parks are not. Those are fenced.
Okay, so the impervious surface already exists.
It does.
Okay, and the sump that you're creating or the drainage that you're creating will handle water off of that area.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's actually a makeup of the sidewalks that were added. So what we're doing is detaining the runoff from the roof of the pool building in lieu of the new impervious surfaces.
Okay, have you?
Yes, so
reviewed this?
they're offsetting sidewalk and a picnic area that was paved that was previously put in. So the conversation we had, that area was spread throughout. So instead they're proposing to offset by capturing an existing, I believe it's a pool house roof to manage stormwater for, we're looking for a volume that would be equivalent to what was added.
And obviously you've gone through that calculation and it does meet that criteria.
So I did have a comment regarding just clarification on the square footage totals to make sure that what was managed by the sump does equate to an offset.
And do we have an answer to that question?
I do not have one at this time.
We'll provide that answer.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll provide that answer and address some of the other comments that you had for us.
And you have another solution if the size of the roof is not great enough to offset the new impervious.
We
surfaces?
can come up with some other solution. Yes. Yeah, there's plenty of property there and plenty of opportunities to capture runoff where needed.
It's just a rough estimate of the roof area for the pool.
I want to say it's about 1,800 square feet that we're capturing.
So 9
And-
acres. we're just looking at.
1,800 square, yeah, and I believe the property owner only added about 900 square feet of new concrete sidewalk. So we're more than making up for that.
Why are we doing this?
It's town ordinance.
I know, but like, when did the new sidewalk go in that precipitated why we're here today?
I can provide context to that. So town staff had, our code enforcement officer had visited the site in relation to a code enforcement call. Upon going to the site, we noticed that there was newly constructed sidewalks that met the requirement for a minor land development. So we contacted the property owner, followed that procedure. The property owner was unaware, as they are a new property owner and were not familiar with the requirements for the land development. So we had a discussion with the property owner in how to rectify the added impervious. So they came in for a pre-application meeting with staff where we reviewed the requirements of the land development. And they have come in and filed after putting in a few of these items to meet that requirement through the MPC and our town code of having a land development review. So a few of these items are, like the sidewalks, the fences are already constructed and were constructed and a violation of the town. So now we're trying to rectify that construction by going through the correct approvals and review process to get this approved.
Does the area where the roof of his pool building drains into, is that the same, or call it watershed area, as the location of the sidewalks and where the water hitting that impervious surface would go?
Yes, yes, it all drains, the entire property. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the entire property does drain towards Presidential Drive.
What is the fence that's over the property line? That's not the dog park fence, But-
That is correct.
but what is it? And it needs to be removed apparently.
That is
Moved or removed.
correct. Yeah, it is a lay down area for the owner's maintenance crews. So it's some building components and rock salt, things of that nature.
And what are you
Um,
going to do?
the-
You're
it-
going
it-
to demolish it? and
That will be
place it
rectified.
Somewhere else?
Yes.
As part of this plan? I mean, you identified, we see where the fence needs to be removed.
Mhm.
But I did not see at least where it's going to be, if you've applied to have it reinstalled somewhere else.
Kevin, do you want to speak to it?
Not reinstalling it. It's basically housing salt and calcium to the side. It's just gonna be removed and not put back up.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, that sounds like that solves the fence problem. But what is remaining on the roof problem? We have to confirm the square footage that they are saying is that they have in order for us to agree that it is sufficient to offset the sidewalk construction.
Correct, yeah, we just want to see the numbers spelled out on the plan compared to the sizing of the rock sump to make sure that aligns. And then the other item too, is just making sure there, from the GIS, there appears to be an MTSA sewer that runs down in that area. So I want to ensure that we are outside of either an easement that's associated with that, or if there's no clear defined easement off the center line of that MTSA is contacted to verify the distance the sump needs to be installed away from that line.
Okay, and this sump has some flexibility as to where it can be installed?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that sounds like a detail that we can,
Get figured out.
okay,
I believe. Yeah.
okay. Any other issues that people see? Well, this sounds to me like we have another situation where the approval, if granted, has to be subject to these things being rectified to the satisfaction of the town engineer. So the motion that is before us is, oh, I always forget about those public comments. Haven't had any yet. I think we'll have some later. Any public comment on this matter? Hearing none. Thank you. So the motion is to recommend the town council approve PLC 26-03 Presidential Arms Apartment Plan as submitted by Kevin Rowland, subject to the concerns and issues brought up in this meeting and by the town engineer satisfactorily rectified. Can I have such a motion? Moved. So moved by Sean. Second? Diane Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Sean.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
We have one opposition. And the opposition is Brendan.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
The motion was moved.
Yeah, the motion passed with one opposition.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Now, the next item on the agenda. McCandless Dental Care, preliminary and final land development, block lot 944-C-342. And apparently there was some last minute changes that you wanted to mention.
Sure. The town staff received a letter from the applicant at KU Resources requesting a tabling until the February meeting. So Lenny will be presenting the item tonight. There will be no vote as they have agreed and requested a table until the next meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, this process is the same as it would be if they were looking for an approval. There's no voting tonight.
Right, yeah, so to start, Lenny White, engineer, KU Resources. To follow up, the table request was, the gateway letter came on Friday afternoon, so, that doesn't give us enough time to respond formally. It certainly doesn't give Gateway enough time to review formally ahead of this meeting, so it just makes it easier to push it back a month, table it, come here. I can get into it, but it just helps the process, keeping everybody moving. So the proposed project, it's a 2-story, it's approximately 8,600 square feet. It's at, 9730 Newhart. I think we're all aware of where we're at. So it's on the corner of Newhart, Pine Creek, and Old Perry Highway. The applicants are, I guess they're currently under agreement with the current property owner. So I'm here on behalf of the developer that's going to be building the building and developing the site, which is VBDB LLC. The building, I said 8,600 square feet, 5,800 square feet first floor, and then a smaller second floor, 2,800 square feet. We're in the MN neighborhood zoning district. We do have a couple different zoning districts to the north of us and to the, I want to say right, but I guess it's to the east of us. So we have a few different buffers as we landscape buffers as we kind of go around the site. Do have zoning variance approval that we obtained prior to submitting for land development. Most of those both are in relation to the front and side build to maximums. So the build to on the front was 5 to 15 feet from the property line, and the sides were 0 to 10 feet. We obtained variances to increase those to build a rectangular building instead of a U-shaped or an L building. So that primarily comes out because the property is a corner lot. So we have frontage on 2 of the sides, which would require the building to be that same shape along the front. One of the items that did come up kind of informally at the zoning hearing board meetings was parking. So the initial parking count we had was 68 parking spaces that we could show because they fit. We could physically put them there. Working with the owners, with kind of planners specifically for dentist's office for buildings of this structure, we dropped that down to 54. We're actually going to probably lose another one for the bike rack, so that's usually the easiest place to put one. So that'll drop that total down to 53 spaces. Another one that we haven't formally responded to the Gateway letter was that also came up at the zoning hearing board was a traffic impact study. The trips that we have, both peak PM and average daily, are both less than the required for a traffic impact study. So we're not required by the ordinance to do a traffic impact study.
Can you give us a number?
It is, so our peak PM trip is 30. And the average is 311.
Request a letter to just to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be when we formally submit, it'll be in there. That was so you can do the trips by building square footage or by employees. Did it both ways, took the worst case scenario. One of, I guess another, I guess the easy stuff, all the utilities are all along, Newhart or, Old Perry. So we did get kind of a preliminary feedback. That was the fire marshal, Matt.
Yeah.
But utilities are all there. Stormwater management is in the middle of the parking lot and kind of between the building and in the middle. We have several bioretention areas and an underground detention tank that'll capture all the runoff from the site. Right now it's getting some off-site, some not off-site. So with that detention system that in the bioretention areas, they'll do water quality, runoff volume, and runoff rate that will have to meet the town code, which is a 60% rate requirement. So anything after construction will be less than before construction, just by the nature of the release rate percentage. In addition to that, we have an NPDES permit we need to apply for and obtain prior to doing anything on the site. So Conservation District, it's going to go through their meat grinder for same thing, rate and quality and volume. As we kind of head down the site, the other one was the sidewalk. We were looking for some feedback. Initial conversations with the staff were that we were probably going to ask for a modification because the sidewalk by code is at the property line into the right of way. That the nature of this site, the shape of the site, and the existing infrastructure on the site kind of pushes some of that back into the property itself, which we would, ultimately, if modifications are granted by, the town council to put those in an easement, so that way the public could still access those sidewalks without being on part of the property. I did send, are you able to pull up the?
Yeah. You want what did you want me to pull up?
Probably the street. So we're talking about sidewalks, that Google Street.
Sure.
Yeah. So the sidewalks right now are, back off of the property line because the property line is, right behind that signal pole. And in the middle of that 2-to-1 slope that's right there along, right behind the back of the curb. I see. I didn't know if you were looking at me and I just realized.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're looking at what's on the screen.
So yeah, we have, as you go up Newhart, utilities are in where the sidewalk typically would be. There are utilities there. So we're proposing to pull it outside of where the utilities are, just so that if any utility company has to go in there and do any repairs or replacements, you're not ripping up your sidewalk as well.
You're talking underground utilities, I'm
Yes.
assuming.
Yeah, sorry.
And when you pull it out, it goes to where? Goes
We
into
go
what?
into the property.
Okay,
Yeah, we're out of the right of way and into the property.
all right. You mentioned earlier that due to certain infrastructure on the site, in relation to the sidewalks, what infrastructure? You're talking about the utilities?
Yeah, underground utilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's no other infrastructure that I can see.
Believe gas is on one. Yeah, so gas is on Old Perry, and then we do get sanitary, and I think the water line goes up Newhart as well, so.
Does this property, it obviously goes from Newhart.
Mhm.
Does it go all the way to that, I think that's a Berkshire Hathaway building? Or is there something in between you and the Berkshire Hathaway building?
There's two pieces. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head how far that lower piece goes. So if you look at the left side, kind of in the middle of the property, you can see the adjoining line.
That's my question. Is that the dividing line
Yeah.
between this property and the Berkshire Hathaway property?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
We do here sidewalks, traffic, utilities, stormwater, parking. I'm just kind of touching on the gateway letter, because we did kind of look through it internally. A lot of it is, just kind of clarifying some things on the plan, adding some notes to the plans. We are still pending on infiltration testing. We've been fighting the weather for the past couple months. So, but that's part of Gateway's letter that, they know, and we know that we're going to need all that stuff for approvals anyway.
And what is the plan if the infiltration testing is not favorable?
Then you go into, which is typical for the area. So we get into lots of surface BMPs. So right now we do show, you can call it 5 fire retention areas, but it's kind of like 4.5. Because if you look in the island, the parking in the middle, it's technically 4 fire retention areas, kind of where the where the curb loops around, but the 2 of them are somewhat connected. But from a design standpoint, they're separate. And then there's another one in the front next to the handicap spaces.
So it'll be additional bioinfiltration around the perimeter of the parking lot?
Yes. So if we don't have infiltration and we get into the managed release concept design, DEP likes to see lots of things on the surface before you can get into that managed release design. And then the managed release design will be most likely in the underground detection, which are 48-inch pipes right now.
I was surprised to see that I personally know this property very well, and flooding is a problem right below it, as I'm sure you're aware.
Mhm.
I was surprised that there was nothing. I did not see the wetlands delineation report, but there's always appeared to me to be, there's cattails in the northwest corner of the property. It's actually, when you show the photo, it's where there's foliage growing out of where nowhere up, nothing else is growing. And then I looked at your C401 drawing, and it looks as if in exactly that area, according to, if I'm reading your key correctly,
Yes.
that's an existing stream waterway. No, that's what.
Yeah, it is shown on there as that stream waterway. I will note there is within the area zone AE 100 as well as the 500 year floodplain down in there. So
Yeah, the floodplain is in that corner.
So yeah, I'd take a look, at least make sure that the legally is correct. What sheet is that 401?
401. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to
Yeah,
see
I had to
these.
use a magnifying.
But I did not see any, other than the extreme waterway dashed line. I didn't see anything else that at least indicated that. But again, my concern is not, I'm just pointing out that this is a property that has water on it. It drains down to Old Perry Highway. Perry Highway floods below the property. I think it has on a number of occasions, at least once, very devastatingly. I think that everyone, it's something I'm concerned about. And it concerns me because you have your, I mean, I understand you're putting in the rain garden, the underground retention, but there's still, I still feel as if there's potential for runoff that won't be controlled, that will, looking at the grading, that will eventually make its way down onto Old Perry Highway.
Yeah, and I mean, the site that we could collect, take into there, the town does have the 60% release rate. So, that's all stuff that we'll work out with Gateway.
Just to clarify, the delineation showed no wetlands, no streams on
Correct.
the site.
So one quick question, your engineer's report, I think the stormwater report
Mhm.
refers to 15 beds,
To what?
a 15-bed facility.
15 bed?
So I was confused.
I think you're gonna have 15 dental stations, are you not?
I'm sorry. Yes. So the chairs. Yeah, the ops.
The dental chairs or
Yeah.
whatever that's called.
Correct.
15 of those,
Correct.
no beds.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Just the dentist
Okay.
chair. Right. They're just regular dentist chairs. Nothing fancy. So okay.
I'm still,
Mhm.
okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but I'm confused. And Sean, maybe you can, that you said which I have not
Mhm.
seen, your
Mhm.
wetlands and land use report did not indicate
Mhm.
any wetlands or streams.
Correct.
But am I misreading then your C401 drawing,
I don't know.
which shows an existing stream waterway?
I don't know where you're in that corner.
In the bottom left, right where there's almost like a channel. If you look right above it, there's a 1014 contour.
Existing.
According to your key,
Is it the delineation of the unmapped floodplain?
Yeah, so we had a comment to make sure that the floodways, the
Yeah.
floodplains were met.
Mhm.
And when we initially saw that, that's what we were thinking, but we wanted that clarification as well to make sure that based off of what was provided in the wetland report, that this was indeed the case and it was not meant to be something else, such as a physical wet body stream right there and not just the 500-year floodplain. So yeah, I think that clarification would be great to review.
Is that clear with engineering ones?
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
You mentioned parking earlier, and we were just talking about 15 chairs.
Mhm.
I assume you put 15 in because you want to use 15. I don't know, and you also mentioned there were going to be 53 parking spaces.
Mhm.
If you have a patient, a dentist, and an assistant, there's 3 times 15 is 45. You're pretty close to your 53. How did you come up with, and what is the right number of parking for your maximum
Mhm.
occupation?
Right. So minimum is a space and a half per chair, and then plus your employee count. So they were looking at, I think, 21 employees. So we had a little bit of a buffer on top of that. So that's where we ended up with our final count. And then just the layout of the site, getting rid of, just random parking spaces doesn't really, it changes the total impervious number on the site. But as far from a functionality portion of the site, it doesn't change anything.
The water on the roof of this building goes where?
Mhm. The front of it will go into the detention tank, the side facing the parking lot, which is the front of the building to the parking spaces. But the parking lot side of the building goes into the system, and then there are 2 on the Perry Highway system that come around and go into the inlet on Newhart.
And what's this building going to look like? Other than 2 stories, we don't know anything.
Do have renderings and kind of elevations from the architect.
We-
Both
we provide-
stories are going to be utilized specifically and
There's no
only for
renderings in here.
dental practice,
Yeah.
not leased out for other uses.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I missed any renderings. Do we have renderings?
We do have our name.
The ones today are better. Those were dated December.
Okay, let me grab.
Down, I think it's like the next couple sheets.
You sent, it was the ones.
They're all in that same PDF.
Understood. That,
Elevations were in there. Rendering would be on the cover page.
this is what I have on my docket.
Is that the?
Sorry, let me.
Sure.
Let me see if I can. You said that you had reset plans today for this item?
Maybe I'm thinking of the Google. That would have been yesterday.
You sent something yesterday, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if we haven't.
Can we resend it?
You can resend it. I'm looking for it here. I got it. Lenny.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody.
Okay,
Here's the renderings.
okay. These are renderings of the actual building, not
Yeah.
for this site, okay. And since I can't see, what are the surfaces and the roofs?
That's a good architect question.
Hi, my name is Keith Andrake. I'm the architect with Integrity Design representing the owners. The building presentation you see here, primary materials are brick veneer, and it's what you see in the yellow, orangish is a vertical composite wood panel siding. So, and the roofs that you asked about would be metal standing seam. Colors are fairly accurate in the rendering you see, or what we are proposing. Also, you see there's a large amount of transparency. What you're seeing here meets the ordinance for glazing, 60% on the ground floor, street facing, and 30% on the upper levels.
And this view that we're looking at faces which street?
This view here is facing Old Perry Highway.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for,
Not for the architect. I have a couple more for the engineer.
okay, any other questions for the architect? Thank you.
Come on back.
It was just a short break. Go ahead.
Clearly, stormwater is a key issue. You have some issues associated with buffering that may not be quite accurately portrayed. So Whether that cuts down on the impervious surface, I don't know. One of my concerns is traffic. That intersection is a bad intersection, and there are legs of it that do not operate according to, I mean, they're failing.
Mhm.
So across McKnight, there's problems on Pine Creek Road, and this particular configuration is extremely confusing for people who aren't familiar with the area. Am I going straight? Am I turning right? Am I turning left when you get the arrows? So do you have any idea where your traffic, your 30 PM peak will be going?
That's not part of kind of the trip count. It's just.
So
an
you haven't
overall-
evaluated that or looked at your market area?
I don't know the answer to that.
These roads are under
Mhm.
the control of PennDOT?
No.
No,
No.
those are not. I think they are all municipal owned roads.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could, the question I have maybe for the town, for gateways, I mean, I understand that you're quoting a requirement for a traffic study. Are there I'm not familiar with that regulation, but where there are certain mitigating circumstances, like you have a very atypical or non-typical intersection here, where a study would be worthwhile?
I think if there's concerns from a standpoint, it's definitely something that is worth discussing. If it's not a statement that's in the ordinance, that section of the ordinance, if I recall, doesn't really cover that attenuating circumstance there. But I do think it's definitely something to discuss as a group to determine, how that should move forward.
I would just think as a developer that traffic study would help and advise you on the layout of the building and the infrastructure. I mean, I've had a marriage moment through that intersection. And I've seen, a few near misses as well. So changing the sight lines, as well as adding peak hours, people coming in, people leaving. I don't know but I think it'd be very warranted to have that discussion.
Yeah, we did receive a site distance plan as well to make sure that they did meet those site distances. And with where the driveway is currently oriented on the northernmost section, kind of sitting outside of the northern buffer yard, I will call it. From the standpoint from our traffic folks, it was at least a beneficial location there, as opposed to having it closer down towards that kind of U-shaped intersection down there. But yeah, I agree. It's a little wonky down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real concern. Pine Creek can be backed up, closing Blazer off so you can't get out. Play it backed up all the way to Old Perry Highway, blocking people from getting off McKnight.
Yeah.
So how these vehicles are going to get into the mix is a real concern.
Yeah, and I think too, a discussion that we can have, and I can discuss with the staff from a traffic standpoint on more municipal front roads, if there's additional improvements that maybe haven't been prioritized, and there needs to be adjustments on maybe how some of these infrastructure improvements to town roads needs to be handled. I think that's something that we can discuss as well from the municipal front.
The lights are under the control of PennDOT though, right?
Probably in this area. Yeah, given its proximity.
So no, that's a real concern,
Yes.
in addition to stormwater.
Any other questions or comments on the commission? Yes.
So the other one, I'm going back to the stormwater and the wetlands. I guess maybe a procedural one, but just because you PADEP, in my experience, they can discover wetlands. And I know the property you're talking about down there. I'm not a geotech, but it's squishy. And is there a potential for when you're doing your permit to discover you actually have a wetland there?
Well,
Did a wetland.
yeah,
delineation report.
our environmental team was on the site and dug into the site to determine wetlands and everything else.
We haven't seen it, but there's a report that
Yeah.
supposedly
Oh,
identifies.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you
Yes,
had it.
in our report, like we were at the site. There's site pictures of them, doing all their field studies and everything like that. So
we did take a look at that as well to verify there's 3 criteria you need to meet in order for it to be classified as a wetland. And their report stated that the areas that were tested did not meet that criteria. It was classified as a well and was what their report had summarized in the findings.
Okay. But you haven't seen that yet?
The report?
Yeah.
Engineers have.
Yes, we did receive the report.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I'd like to see the report, if you could send it to me.
Anything else from you, sir?
I think that's everything.
Okay. Then I think we're open for public comment. And we'll see as many people as we can see. Just keep in mind that we do in fact limit the presentation to a 5-minute. So state your piece in as concise a way as possible. And that way we can get just about as many people through this as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to be first on a public comment? Please step forward and state your name and address.
My name is John Mankovich. I live on Newhart Boulevard, 9949 Newhart Boulevard. You guys had a pretty good discussion here on the retention areas of that particular area too. You took a little more than 5 minutes. I'm going to try and keep it to your regulated 5 minutes. I saw where they were testing too, and the squishy area, you're right about that. I don't understand why this isn't like the old Trader Joe's area where they're going to do the Walmart back then about the water and the retention area also. But they're going to put the retention area under the building too for the wastewater. Seems like there's water everywhere over there, and I wish that they'd look into a little bit more on this water retention area. The traffic seems like because the building is where it's located, Newhart, Reineman Road, and Pine Creek and Old Perry Highway, you know, including McKnight Road, north and southbound, the other side Blazer Drive, and the other sections of Pine Creek and everything else that does actually interfere with all of this. At times, you can't get through the Newhart intersection or the Pine Creek, 1 or 2 cars, because McKnight Road in PennDOT dictates 60% of the traffic lights going north and bound. So is that going to be changed? Who's going to take care of that? And like I say, back to the retention again, that is a big concern. I'm glad you guys looked into it. I thought I was going to have a battle with you guys too, other than just the people doing that. And I liked it, especially when you brought up the part about the dog park and the retention roof over the roof over the swimming pool area in Presidential Arms. So I'm glad you guys are very concerned about it. And as far as that goes, when you're talking about the 15 chairs or 15 beds, 21 employees, do the 21 employees include the dentist, their assistant, or is this just the secretaries, the intake, the people that take care of the records and everything else? So, I mean, to me, it seems like you're going to have a lot more than 45 people or so for chairs, plus those 20, maybe 55. Are they going to park out on Newhart Boulevard? They're going to park down on Reineman Road. They're going to be blocking driveways. And as far as that sidewalk they talk about, it's a 50 to 60% terrace on the corner of Reineman and Newhart Boulevard. I don't think there's anybody here that's able to walk it unless they're coming from West Virginia with the short leg. But I thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, sir. Whoever wants to be next. Please state your name and address.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Christy Rush. I live at 359 Wagon Wheel Trail up top of Newhart. We have 2 entries in and out of our neighborhood. How many houses do we have up there? 2 entry and exit points. One's over by Billy's in the church, and the other one is Reineman. My daughter asked me to stay tonight. She's 19 and she dropped me off here. She said, Mom, one time I was coming down Renneman and trying to go onto McKnight Road, and a lady who didn't want to let her out onto Renneman, she was just trying to make the right. The lady went into oncoming traffic to prevent my daughter from coming out, risking her own life. And my daughter said it's so dangerous down there. And what worries me is the amount of kids in our neighborhood that are new drivers coming down there. There's also an anger issue, which I don't understand. People just won't let you out. I have to go out that way every day to get to work, and people just don't want to let me out. So I worry that, a building of this size and the parking and the water retention and just the whole thing, I don't care if you build there. Just build something that's conducive to where I live. That's not going to put me and my family in danger or risk, somebody's life. My next door neighbor got T-boned down there without a building there. So how many accidents have I avoided there? Quite a few. So I'm just coming here to speak just as a neighborhood person who's been here before. I care about my neighborhood. I care about my neighbors, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. And if, corners are cut, or my kids can't see around a building, or that's a five, I guess, street intersection that comes together there. That's a lot of traffic for even me as a 57-year-old woman to handle, much less a 19-year-old kid that lives there. And those are kids on Renneman. There's kids on Old Perry. There's a church up there. It's just too much congestion for a dentist office. If you want to build something smaller there, I don't have a problem with that. It's the size, and how am I ever going to get off that hill? Coming down Renneman, going around, waiting at Renneman anyways. It's just too much. That's just my opinion. So take it or leave it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Joanna Cameron. I'm at 352 Wagon Wheel Trail. I want to put it out there to start with that while I am on the Environmental Advisory Council, I am not here to represent them today. I am here to represent my community and as a citizen, because I'm a member of Woodhaven Oaks up on Wagon Wheel Trail up there on the top, coming down Newhart Boulevard, same as Christie. The reason I'm here today is to talk about the traffic, to talk about the water, to talk about the rain garden, because that is kind of my thing, and also to talk about the just general feel for the area. So talking a little bit about what this is supposed to represent, what MN zoning is supposed to represent is the daily needs of a residential population with small shops, such as cafes and other eateries, which sounds great. I would love to have a walkable coffee shop from my location. That'd be fantastic. All right. But that's not exactly what this represents. This is something where now we're going to have a sidewalk with a giant dental facility that I don't know who's really going to be walking or riding their bike down that way. And now we're going to have to also worry about people getting hit and people riding their bikes through there. And it opens up a world of possibilities for people getting hit. Additionally, the thing that we're talking about is that in 2023, there was massive flooding. This is the devastating flooding that happened. This is a picture taken by KDKA when they were out there. And this is after the major thing that we had cars that were submerged in the water and caused lots of damage. And this is something that continues to happen and will continue to happen because of the increase in major weather events that is happening within our planet. And exactly what you guys were talking about, it is directly on the flood zone. This is the FEMA flood map. And you can see it is right there, including the little bit of swamp area that is right there on the map. I can see it, so I assume everybody else can. Additionally, when you have a rain garden like that, as I've learned from the McCandless Rain Garden, it requires constant maintenance. So if they have rain garden on the map to build onto this property. Who is taking care of that? Who's making sure it's not getting clogged? If you're having a pipe, okay, that's where all the water is going. Who is going out there regularly to make sure that that's not getting clogged and that's not overflowing into the parking lot? Because that is a lot of water, because it's not just the water that falls on there, but it's also at the bottom of the hill. So all of the water from the top of the hill to the flows down to that spot. And that's why we're getting major flooding right there on Old Perry Highway. Additionally, the traffic, as we pray, as we go across major roadways, including PennDOT roads like McKnight, and then all the others, it is very difficult when you're trying to go through these lights and they're letting 5 cars, 4 cars go at a time before that light changes and people are having to speed through there, sometimes on the red. Heaven forbid there's a pedestrian to get through all of these different intersections. And the thing is, up in Woodhaven Oaks, it is a wonderful community. It is a community where we have food trucks and we have children that are roaming the streets. We have to have food trucks, unfortunately, because we don't get the cafes that are promised to us with our neighborhood zone. But if we have 50 cars in a parking lot and they're trying to avoid that intersection, you know, the quick way is to go up through our neighborhood and speed through there. And that's what a lot of people are doing already. And if you continue to have more people avoiding the congestion, that's sending them up again through our neighborhood. And then we have to worry about our kids getting hit. We have to worry about the neighbors who are just walking peacefully through our neighborhood getting hit. And that is kind of what your zoning is supposed to do. You know, according to the zoning code, you are to provide a pleasant, attractive, healthy, safe, and convenient environments for living, working, shopping, education, recreation. For us, we need to make sure that we have a safe environments for us and also reduce losses from flooding, because that's letter E. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next.
Steve Soa, I live at 9856 West Moccasin, which is up in that same neighborhood. I'm a past president of the Woodhaven Oaks Civic Association. So I don't want to belabor the point, but my neighbors kind of said the same thing. Like, I can tell you, we know when St. Aidan or previously St. Alexis, we know when church gets out. The traffic through our neighborhood is robust. And like they eloquently said, we do have a lot of young children that are in the neighborhood. And I'm an avid dog walker, and I can tell you that squishy is, you know, an understatement in that area. So appreciate everything. You guys addressed everything and know the concerns of the neighborhood. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jess Smith. I live at 9880 Newhart. We lived there for about 14 years. And I'd just like to thank my neighbors for coming out and speaking out against this. We all know this is like the 800-pound gorilla on Newhart that we've just been waiting to see what will go in there. And I don't think it takes much of a stretch, especially if you are familiar with the area, that I don't see how this can be feasible, that size, that scope on that parcel of land. I was at the zoning ordinance hearing, and I was just shocked that that area is even zoned for business. I mean, that area is rough, even for a small individual house to be there. None of these images really do it justice, but as multiple people have discussed, I mean, that intersection is a Medusa's head. And unfortunately, I have nothing against the developers or the landowners, but that's just going to create a mess. I think deep down, we all know that. I don't know what options we have now, because, you know, something will eventually end up on that parcel, and it rightfully so. But I just think the size and scope of this project and the use is not really going to add much to McCandless. It's going to subtract. And unfortunately, in my 15 years of living in this area, we're seeing the things that make McCandless so livable is just slowly getting overdeveloped. and it's a fine line because obviously, you want to increase your revenues and increase the tax base. But I just, as a resident of this area, this is just not the right application for that site. And again, I want to thank you all. And obviously I want to thank all my neighbors for coming out and speaking about this, because it is important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Bill Birdwood. I live at 10213 Country Manor, so I don't have all the impact that these folks have, but there's been a great discussion here today. Good presentation on the project itself. So a quick question, is there drawings available to the public online or?
Yeah, every application that gets submitted to the planning commission is a public application and can be viewed at town hall. You can either set up a meeting or you can come in at any time. Our office hours are 8 to 4 o'clock.
Okay, but they're not online.
No, they're not online. We have everything digital, but that's something to definitely consider.
Yeah, I'd like to take a quick look at some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to belabor any of these points because it's all been great discussions and there's two clear things that need to happen here. That I'm just going to state. One thing is the stormwater and the concerns that are around that. That's clearly needs to be resolved and discussed. But more importantly, the traffic. I mean, at the end of the day, there are traffic engineers. There are people that can come into this place and say, okay, let's measure what we've got. Let's measure what we're going to perceive is going to be the traffic. And is there a way to get a solution? Because it's unfortunate that this project doesn't move forward because of these couple of things. Take a look at it, figure out a way to fix it, or decide it can't be fixed, because that intersection is a mess now. And at the very minimum, as a community, we should be addressing it anyways. I don't have to tell any of you guys that if you live here, you know how crazy it is. So those are my 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Barbara Richards. I live at 305 Manor Court. And I would just like to agree with everyone that's been coming up. I come down Reineman through there every day. I really feel for the people that have to come down Newhart and go through there or go up Newhart up to their home because it's always been a nightmare. Avoided, almost had several accidents down there. There's people rushing through, coming from Pine Creek, and they're trying to make that turn onto Newhart, and the light is so short, and they want to get through because they know they're going to be waiting a long time. And then the traffic just stops for someone trying to turn up Newhart, and people don't let them in. And it is just a nightmare there. So I hope something can be done about that before anything is considered about this building. Which I think one of the strangest things that I don't know where you're going to find all these dentists to move into that place. I mean, I've never seen such a big dental office. It's got to be a surgical center or dental surgical center of somehow. Is that allowed, or is it just dentist's office? It's just huge. And I would be very surprised if a dentist ever moves into that building. I think it's going to be maybe someday end up being something else. So I just wanted to back up what everybody said from coming down Reineman. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jackie Rizzo Ringheisen. We're at 187 Pine Creek Road, which everybody's been calling Reineman. So it really is Pine Creek right there. And the Ringheisens were there 150 years ago, and we are still there on a little bit over an acre. So all that property was really the Ringheisens, and we have pictures from the past and things like that. We have pictures of the old homestead that was the farmhouse for that apple farm was on that piece of property. So, there's a lot of history we have documented, and I'd like to thank everybody, including you guys, coming up and speaking up about the water retention and runoff traffic issues. This just like a quick example of a traffic issue. Our driveway feeds onto Pine Creek right there, right before Newhart. We get blocked in all the time. my mailbox is down there. I gotta walk all the way down there on the road. My butt's on the road, and people they've tried to hit me. We find rear view mirrors all the time, trash, rubbish. I mean, people are walking. I don't know. I can't believe they're walking on that road. Okay. And they're going down the intersection and they're crossing where there's not a crosswalk. And, I have pictures of that too. We take pictures all the time in the whole area. So I just want you to know that it needs looked at, because if you're going to put 30 cars or 30, if I understood, I don't understand, 30 cars a minute, a day, people come in for an appointment at 8, are there 30 cars every hour? How long is a dentist appointment? Are you cycling through these 30 people all day long? So there's 30 cars or whatever it is going through that intersection. The one day we got down our driveway, got into the traffic, and we're sitting there trying to let somebody we always let the space open at Newhart all the time when we're there. And some jerk passed us on the oncoming lane just to go around us. I think they did go up Newhart. I don't remember. But I thought, what? And like somebody said, they're coming flying across McKnight Road from the other side of Pine Creek to be that light. I mean, just think of how many lives that person put at risk right there doing that. And someone's going to run late for their appointment. Somebody's going to be running late to go home, to go somewhere else afterwards. So it's just going to be, the traffic alone, let alone the water runoff, the flooding. I have pictures of that same KDKA that I personally took. We go down, we ride around, we see all the flooding. I take all the pictures. And I have pictures of accident debris. They didn't hear about the accidents going on down there. There's debris all the time. And, those little sticks on Old Perry, there's that intersection coming down from St. Aidan's Parish or St. Alexis. You said the light, there's always something's bent over, there's been accidents there. Don't probably hear about those. So I have pictures of those. So I'm just telling you that looks really nice from a picture standpoint, but putting a big, huge building there with 50 some parking lots or 54 spaces and 30 cars every hour going through there, that doesn't add any value to our neighborhood. And it puts them at risk, and it puts everybody else in that entire intersection at risk. So I'm really happy you guys are taking a really strong look at it. And I'm happy that everybody here has voiced all the same concerns as I did. And one last thing, I have a minute left. That whole 910 intersection that's getting redone, or the 79 910 intersection, that traffic that's going through there is going to 79. So I don't even understand where all the rest of that, if they enhance that intersection, Brant School and Pine Creek, and the whole intersection is going to get a lot busier. I mean, nobody has ever even said anything like, oh, if they're going to enhance the intersection, that's just going to be more people going to come through. So we got a bad situation. It's only going to be worse. And it's not enhancing the neighborhood. A 2-story dental clinic, it's a hospital to me. It's not coded as a hospital. It's a neighborhood center. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Others? Okay, I think that completes the public comment. Appreciate it. I think we've heard what you had to say. I think our concerns were similar. And I just have a question, and I don't know what authority we have, but if we don't control the lights, they might be our roads, but we don't control those lights. And people, 2 or 3 mentioned, people have to race through because the light is so short. Do we have any ability to talk to PennDOT or make a request or cooperate with them in some way so that they can redesign or relook at or re-engineer the way those lights work to make things? My daughter's a traffic engineer, and I know none of these things are easy. But it sounds like everybody has that same concern. And do we have any ability to request somebody from PennDOT take a look at this?
Yeah, so I will say on the Gateway side, every year we are working with the town directly, John and Public Works, to continually improve infrastructure at intersections as well as where there are known issues, improving those together. So I think that's definitely a discussion that can be had, brought to the table to review internally and with us as well on, what's been done here, what's the plan, what's public works is thinking, and see if we can have a discussion with PennDOT and start planning for, maybe what could be done here from a traffic standpoint in the future.
I think we're to do it. Now, I'm also not naive. Things like that take forever. So I don't know whether that could even begin to give us any insights as to what might happen out there, but you don't start, if you don't start, you don't get anywhere. And I think we probably need to at least potentially have that discussion somewhere. Thanks,
Yeah,
Kelly.
And that's an item, typically whenever we have these planning commission meetings, staff I'll relay to our town management, kind of what occurred in the meeting, give an update. And typically, whenever you hear a number of residents come up with a concern, that's something that would, in my opinion, need to get elevated to the town manager. So that's something that, I will do with my department.
I think this one is a particularly tough one because while their traffic information doesn't spur a requirement for a traffic impact study, the real fact of the matter are that intersection, when it was created, I don't think, even when it was originally designed, probably ever worked at an A level. And I recall when they were talking about doing where Old Trader Horn was, there was some work done. It was, I think it was like a D- at that point, maybe even failing. So the problem is, how do you we may not be able to stop it, but how in good conscience can we allow, an over a 6,000, almost 6,000 square, 8,600 square foot development in what we know? It's a failing intersection. And we're also allowing it to have, and I understand they have the right to a driveway onto Newhart Boulevard, a residential street that joins into a failing, intersection. It just sounds somewhat unconscionable to add to what's already a failing intersection. So I at least think that we should be able to, I hope that perhaps through council that we can require more intensive traffic impact analysis.
Yeah. And I'll just ask you, is just so legally speaking, is the planning commission through the review can request additional documentation if they feel that it's necessary. So that could be something where, the planning commission sees concern with this issue and they request that the applicant provide additional information, correct?
Yeah. I thought we already did. Sorry.
We did. I just wanted to verify it on a legal standpoint.
Okay.
Sure, but I would just add that.
We asked Kelly to have her traffic engineers look at us and tell us what additional information might need to be done, correct?
Yeah, so
Evaluate
what we would require, we would want to see the numbers first, so that's what we've asked for tonight, and then, where that stands, then at that point, if there's additional information upon, that's gonna build on that, or the traffic engineer would basically it would be a traffic, a full assessment at that point is what he would recommend, and we can do that formally in writing when that time comes.
I had already jumped to that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need some documentation that we need.
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know I would have a very hard time going forward with this project without the professional recommendation of a traffic manager looking at the specifics and the extenuating circumstances of the area, the 19. And you got 6 roads coming in there. Like I said, you already have a failing, but it's already a challenging intersection. And to add more to it, I would want to have again, from a professional traffic person, their recommendations before I could approve it.
I think that probably sums it up. Do we need a motion to table this? Is that the way you want it, or is it going to be automatically tabled?
Yes, a motion to accept the tabling from the applicant.
Okay, we have it moved to second,
Second.
seconded from Sean. All in favor of tabling? Aye. Opposed? None. So it has been tabled.
So we had some type of comment.
I just had a question. What was the underlying rationale for the table?
So typically, the applicant, when it comes to tabling, the applicant is able to request the tabling. So whenever the applicant received a number of comments that they weren't able to address prior to this meeting, they requested a tabling to say, hey, we don't have enough time to address comments for engineering, so we are tabling, which gives the town planning commission and town council an extension into the timeline that we have under the municipality's planning code to make a motion for approval or denial. So what they're basically saying is, hey, we need more time, so we're agreeing to, or we're requesting that we table into the next meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Another thing, even though it's tabled, and the way the gentleman brought that up at the beginning, if we could extend the impact area other than Lyman Road, Pine Creek Road, New Hart, and Old Perry Highway, to extend it into Route 19, because I really don't think that was taken into consideration with all of this discussion.
So just to clarify, this application is from an applicant for this specific property. In terms of the traffic and concerning the traffic, I think what you're asking is regarding traffic. That would be addressed through what would be, what Kelly mentioned is like some type of traffic report. But in terms of like upgrading the intersection from the municipality, that's not from the applicant. That would be something that would be from the municipality.
Right, if you guys would extend it into a little bit further area that actually does impact this entire meeting this evening.
He's asking that the
Review.
impact analysis
Yeah,
include the other
include-
side.
Include 19.
Sure.
the north side.
Yeah.
It just seems like it ended right at that light, you know, you're just taking on Old Perry Highway, Rhineland, Pine Creek, and New Hart.
Yes, the traffic engineer will look at kind of the full total
Extend it,
movement
right.
of traffic and kind of base it off of that. And if there's areas outside, kind of within the same vicinity that are, I'll say, outside of the jurisdiction of the applicant, that's where I think there has to be some additional conversations outside of kind of this window where, additional improvements may be necessary, and that would be handled separately.
Right, I understand the jurisdiction of the area right there.
Yeah, but in terms of the site, yeah,
No, I
yes.
understand that. I believe our traffic analysis is just those streets. They don't care if there's railroad tracks and the train runs 24 hours a day and you can't get across.
Right.
We're not talking about railroad tracks. We're just talking about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. That has been tabled. And I think the next item, we have a sign ordinance. I don't know if everybody wants to stay and listen to that presentation. You're welcome to do it. But we're going to have a discussion here about the new potential sign ordinance. That's the next item on the agenda, and that's up to you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
I know, it's not something I have to work through. That's something that.
That's the thing, there's no, you'd have to realign it. You'd have to take out.
I'll just ask if you're having a conversation, if you could please leave the room.
If you could take it into the vestibule, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. No, you're fine. Thank you.
That's your option.
Yep, block it off. And then all those people are gonna complain.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna just continue with our meeting here. We're gonna start with we'll have a sign review discussion ordinance. Just to go over, we're gonna be giving a presentation. I'll be giving the presentation. This is for a January 26th meeting. We have a lot of text on this slide. I'm gonna explain it, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Anna to give a little bit of context. On December 15th, Town Council adopted or authorized the following items. There's a few things here. The first is authorization of review of the sign ordinance. The town charter requires that the town council gives authorization for us to review. So that's just a check in a box to say, hey, there's, for the ordinance revision for on-premise signs, off-premise signs, temporary signs, and digital display message duration, we're going to look at that review. So that's what authorized us to do this review and approved us to do that. The next items, there's a few items, and do you mind closing the door? And the next items, which Anna will kind of describe the purpose of these items. There's a settlement agreement and then two adopted proposed ordinances in terms of lease agreements for off-premise digital display signs, which I will turn over to Anna just to give a little bit of context to why and how those exist.
Matt, I'm sorry, could you just,
yeah.
did you say that the town council authorized off-premise temporary, did they specifically?
Yeah, the motion, I can read the motion for you.
Yeah.
Motion to approve a resolution of the town council of the town of McAllen, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, resolving that at a future meeting of the town council will hold a public hearing and thereafter consider an amendment to the town zoning ordinance to amend Article 1305 signs as amended of the town ordinances to revise the regulations for on-premise signs, off-premise signs, temporary signs, and digital display sign message duration.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I'm going to explain the background and the procedure we're going to follow. So it just makes a little bit more sense with the context. So back in 2024, a developer applied for some off-premise signage, pole mounted in some less than desirable locations in the town. These would be illuminated signs that change message. And essentially those are permitted under the ordinance currently by special exception. Those applications for special exception were denied by the town and then subsequently appealed to Common Pleas Court. The town chose to, rather than continue the litigation, work towards a settlement agreement with that developer. And in doing so, they were able to agree to signage that was not pole mounted and instead was monument signage in more desirable locations. And as part of all of that settlement, understanding that the language in the ordinance may happen to be ambiguous currently, and any ambiguities in the ordinance are interpreted in the favor of a property owner or developer, as you know. And so the benefit here with the town authorizing to move forward with those agreements, with that settlement agreement, it includes 2 lease agreements. So these signs are going to be on town property, so in locations that are more desirable. And another portion of why we're here is the zoning ordinance amendment. Specifically to do with the settlement agreement is the off-premise signage. The other proposed amendments are proposed by Matt, and he'll go through those and explain them. But the reasoning for that change, which specifically will only permit off-premise digital signing on parcels that directly abut McKnight Road, and they will not be able to be within 400 feet of residential districts or face residential properties. So we see this to be a change that would protect our residents within the town. And the procedure here is a little bit unique. There's a mechanism under the municipalities planning code called the pending ordinance doctrine. It's rarely used. And it's a little bit procedural intensive, but it requires a resolution to be approved by town council, which was at the December 15th meeting, and then advertisement of their intent to have this ordinance be part of this pending ordinance doctrine. Essentially, the way the pending ordinance doctrine works is it's to protect the town in situations where you might realize that there is a loophole that you missed or something is having an impact that you weren't hoping it to allow you to fix that defect and not have others capitalize on it in the interim before you can go through the lengthy process that is a zoning ordinance amendment, which is lengthy for the exact reason to allow for public comment and whatnot, which is very important. But essentially how that will work is, since this has already been advertised as part of the pending ordinance doctrine, if it is subsequently approved, there's a hearing scheduled for February 9th, and the date for consideration of enactment is February 23rd. If it is approved at that February 23rd meeting, it would be effective as of the date that it was first advertised, which I believe is December 18th. So it allows for, in this interim, no one to capitalize off of this loophole we feel is in the ordinance, or this ambiguity that exists, so that we won't have any illuminated signage put up.
It's almost like a moratorium.
Correct. Yeah, it operates as one.
Yeah.
So that's the background in why we're discussing off-premise signage. And that's the background behind the settlement agreement, which has been discussed at town council meetings. And so I apologize if this is repetitive for anybody. And that's kind of the background on the pending ordinance doctrine. Otherwise, everything will go through the same mechanisms. It's here for your review and your consideration, your recommendation, your feedback. It will also go to the county for their review. So otherwise it will follow that standard procedure. If anyone has any questions about the background or how the pending ordinance doctrine works, I'm happy to answer those. But otherwise, Matt can kind of go through the other changes, which aren't necessarily connected with the settlement agreement, but since we're addressing the signage, it made sense to address them.
And through this presentation, I'm gonna, there's a number of things that I'm gonna discuss. I would say after this, presentation, I'm gonna open it up for conversation between everybody. This is a discussion piece. I do not foresee us acting on this item tonight, as I feel like whenever we're looking at something as important as signs, it would require us to take a good review of it, make sure that the change that we're making is something that we want and meets what the town's comprehensive plan. So just to get into the overall changes, if there's any quick clarification questions that you have during, please feel free to interrupt me. There's a lot of information here. This is the overview of what I'm going to be speaking of tonight. I have 3 topics, essentially breaking our sign ordinance into 3 items. There's the general updates that I kind of consider like cleanup updates from the 2023 code. These are updates that, there's a number of cleanup items that are going to be seen whenever we do the zoning ordinance update. Those are items that staff is reviewing and working towards having something drafted to the municipality, to the planning commission, the future meeting date. However, with the context that Anna provided, staff found it apparent to address the issue with the sign ordinance prior. So that's why you're going to see a couple of the cleanup items that are separate from that settlement agreement. And then we'll be talking about off-premise sign regulations in the MC corridor district, kind of touching on what Anna had spoken of, and then on-premise sign regulations in the neighborhood center MN district. So general cleanup additions. These are a few things that I have identified within the sign code that I feel will enhance it and improve it. These are all proposed additions. So for temporary signage, this is an addition to our current regulation of temporary signs, which we do not, there's no regulation currently for a maximum residential temporary sign size. So I did a little bit of digging into some different municipalities and speaking with some staff, and we feel that it's reasonable to have some type of regulation for a temporary sign. These are signs that don't need permits. So right now, without having any temporary sign maximum in the residential districts, someone could theoretically go and put up a 100-square-foot sign, and there's nothing that we could say about it as long as it's considered temporary. So this would just be, something that outside the areas we're looking at, just having something that isn't limiting residents and their right to have signs and signs on their property, but also making sure that we have a regulation for residential property. So we don't have anything that's, egregious or along the lines of that would be, overly shown in the municipality.
While you're on this, can
Sure.
I ask a question?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
We still, it is not proposed to change, are allowing one temporary sign for road frontage of a property. During election season, that is not the case. So
there's when it comes to signage and regulations, there's regulations and then there's kind of how we handle regulations. So when it comes to political signs and enforcement, I mean, that's your First Amendment right. And what I've learned from working in local government is you don't touch political signs. So that's one of those items where the spirit of this ordinance doesn't really, in my opinion, constitute temporary political signs. Anna, you look like you want to jump
Yeah,
in.
political signs have been treated differently by the courts. And so we typically do, as Matt was saying, treat them separate from our ordinance requirements. That being said, when it's off election season times, we typically do go remove all of those in the right of ways. But there's specific dates during election season.
Should we then not modify the definition of temporary signs to exclude political?
I think that's something that's reasonable to
Yeah.
think of. That's something I didn't think about. It's something that maybe we should.
It would be reasonable. We do have to maintain content neutrality, but I think
Yeah.
that could
No,
be
I
reasonable in this
understand
instance where, with it being political, I mean, we do treat them separate.
Yeah, so I'll make a note to review that and then we can address that next time.
My only comment is,
Sure.
I understand we have to allow political signs and they have this special status. But I personally am all in favor of size restrictions, even on them. I feel strongly about that, and I'd be willing to put some sort of a size restriction on somebody else's ability to tell me what their political views are.
So what we can do and what I can do with our attorneys is make sure that we, whenever we go and review this for an update, that we take a look at the legal, the legal side of things. And then we can bring something to the table that would meet that. Because, in my opinion, and this is just my professional opinion, working in multiple municipalities, when you get into dealing with political signs, every single person will have a different opinion on that scenario. So it's definitely something we want to make sure that we're reviewing for consistency with the courts and with, neighboring municipalities and so forth. Did anyone else have anything else in terms of that, or do we proceed?
Is for construction?
I'm sorry?
Is there for like construction signs?
That's the next items. This is for all temporary signage in the town in the residential districts. So to be honest with you, my presentation doesn't show this very much. So let me just read the code so you know exactly. In non-residential zoning districts in the civic district, the maximum sign area for a temporary sign is 32 square feet. There's no regulation for residential zoning districts for temporary sign area. So that's why the proposal is to have a 20-foot maximum sign area for residential temporary signage.
Okay, just the typical sign is gonna be a 4x4 or a 2x3.
Correct. So this would allow for 4x5.
So, right, which is bigger than, I just think if you want to get it to the appropriate size is what your typical construction, which would be, what's it, 16.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's going to limit it, right? Because somebody will, well, I'll get a little bit more. Your typical construction sign for max for residential is 16.
So that's another thing that we can, consider, that size requirement, and look and see, because like I said, that 20 feet is a number that was probably, I think I chose that from looking at a couple neighboring municipalities. If that's something that we feel is that would be more restrictive on residents, is what that would do. So whenever you're taking that maximum sign area down, you're restricting people's right to have signs. So it's not just political signs, any type of sign.
Right.
And you want to have a sign that says, "Hey, what's up?" You have a sign that says, "Hey, what's up?" in your property. It can be 20 feet, and that's what we're saying here.
Well,
So
I'm not trying to argue it here. Right?
No,
my basis is this is a typical construction for a small construction sign is going to be that 4x4.
Yeah.
Either 4x4, 2x3. That's the basis to make it
Residential,
16.
probably 2x2, yeah,
Right.
because they just put the little,
so I can go back and take a look at, for consistency's sake, see what some of the other, regulations are for neighboring municipalities, and I can bring that back and we can discuss that. I think that's great.
Let's just say square feet.
Yes, it should. It probably just.
It does say it in
Yeah.
in the actual ordinance, it does say square feet.
The other thing is, say you drive around, see those people happy 40th birthday, temporary signs on somebody's front yard. Those are probably, if you add up the square footage of each one of the letters, probably more.
Yeah, I mean, you
Is
could
this
even.
intended to, I mean, I don't think the town's gonna nickel and dime people for that, but if someone's got an axe to grind, how do you differentiate that from somebody puts up the for sale by me or 32 new homes coming soon type of sign?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, thinking about, if I had like 10 letters that were different signposts, like you could argue that that's 10 signs. So, I mean, you could say that you're not allowed to have that as a municipal, like, does this code want to go say, hey, you can't have happy birthday, happy 40th birthday for one day? I don't know if that's the purpose of this. But I don't know if, I'm curious to see if that specifically, like that new idea of large signage has been adjusted in other neighboring municipalities, but also that's a great comment. So thank you for that. Moving forward, just to keep on going, we have temporary real estate construction signs. This is
Wait,
just,
We're gonna Doug, let's Doug, right? So what's the definition of temporary? 1 minute, 1 year?
so
I mean, what's the?
set, I can give you, it's defined our code. That's, I mean, I mean, you're not wrong there. So a temporary sign, it has a sign constructed of cloth, canvas, vinyl, paper, plywood, fabric, plastic, or other lightweight material that is not permanently installed in the ground and not permanently affixed to a building or structure that is permanently installed in the ground. The term temporary sign includes A-frame signs, lawn signs, banners, inflatable signs, and window signs. The temporary sign does not include flags and signs that are intended to regularly move, such as vehicle signs. So that's the definition of temporary signs.
Temporary is not. So we don't have, in other words, because that's getting at how long is temporary. If it's there for a day, for a birthday
Oh,
party.
I'm sorry. There is a 90 days, 90 days. And our code enforcement officer, he does, like, if there are signs that are out there for 90 days, he tries to keep track as best he can of some of these signs. I mean, with the number of signs that are in the municipality, it's not that he necessarily is able to catch everyone, but it's something that we're trying every day to, make sure that these temporary signs are following those, our current regulation. But in the sign code currently, there's a number of regulations for exempted signs from permitting requirements, and temporary sign is on there. These are just additions to what that is.
Okay.
So there is more information than what you're seeing here. I'm just showing you what is changing in the code. And whenever we come to this meeting in a future date, what you will have in front of you will be a review ordinance that we will look at. That will be they'll show the entirety of the sign code. But typically when these ordinances are written, and this ordinance that was written, that was it doesn't even include the entirety of the code because it only shows what the changes are. So once we have the official change, you'll be provided with that at the meeting. In terms of temporary signs for real estate construction, this is just formalizing temporary real estate signs because it wasn't listed in the definition for temporary. And we had the Rachel Carson Eco Village that had a sign that was where they had placed a sign. It kind of led to us saying, hey, maybe this is something that we should look at. And this text is consistent with neighboring municipalities as well. Moving forward, there's just an adjustment from PCC to UCC. There's, the building code uses the Uniform Construction Code. Our zoning code has Pennsylvania Construction Code, and it has caused confusion for a lot of developers and applicants. They're like, what is the PCC? So this is just a verbiage change. Now into the off-premise digital display regulations. I realize I typoed that at the top there, but these are the few of the items that Anna had mentioned. So these are, and I have a few slides, so there's more than just what you're looking at here, but these are the items that are related to off-premise digital display regulations. So these are signs that are not signs that are for your property. These are billboards and signs that are kind of like billboards that are might just be for one person on the property. But essentially, as Anna had mentioned, there's a line in the code that says any ambiguity in the sign code should be resolved in favor of allowing the digital display or allowing the display of a proposed sign. I'll pull up my digital display resolution here. So this is our current off-premise digital display sign code that I've posted into this presentation with the proposed edits to the sign code. Now, The underlined and crossed out sections is how it's written whenever you look at an ordinance update. So what you're seeing here is an adjustment to number 6, which is sign separation. That's just changing it to sign spacing. The definition in the code is sign spacing. I think that was just a overlook from whenever they did the code in 2023. So that's just a verbiage change.
How does that 1,000 feet work? As the crow flies, or on a
So
given
that's
roadway?
that's actually defined. It's funny that sign separation is defined in the code. So and that what it is it's basically just the distance between one sign and next sign.
As the crow flies.
To be honest with you, I'm not
Closest
100
points.
I'm just thinking like if
Yes, yes.
that, there was a sign on McKnight
Yeah.
and then you go on Pine Creek.
Yeah.
It's not 1,000 feet on Pine Creek, but it's 1,000 feet from McKnight. So like you're measuring on the roadway or you?
Yeah, it would be on the roadway. Is how I would interpret it. I'll double check our sign spacing, just the definition so we can clarify that while we're here.
Distance between signs
Thank
or
you.
sign structures measured as a straight line distance between the closest edges
Crow flies.
of each sign.
Yeah.
So crow flies.
And just to clarify, and I'd go back as was on the line before. So in the zoning code, whenever you see this excerpt of our 1305-100, these are the regulations for these off-premise signs. It does start with a line that says in non-residential zoning districts, which is the second line on this, which says proposal, add code line section 1305-150B. This is a regulation update where rather than just saying in a non-residential zoning district, this is what's limiting these off-premise digital display signs to only being abutting McKnight Road.
So it's like an overlay district for
it's,
them.
it's essentially saying what this is doing, what this is achieving is saying that digital display billboards are only permitted on McKnight Road. They meet all the current standards of the zoning that we have currently. We address digital display signs in the off-premise digital display because as you can see here, digital display is not mentioned at all in our off-premise signs code. But if you go into the actual digital display section of our code, it mentions that in 150 or in this section 100 that it references digital display and it follows these regulations. So what my fear was is that the ambiguity that we had mentioned of that someone was going to say, hey, your sign says that ambiguity rolls in my favor, and they take us to court and then they'd be able to put up a billboard.
Mhm.
So that's why the town council has gone through this entire process to make sure that we're limiting these digital displays. We're talking, billboards to only McKnight Road, only if you're not located within 400 feet of a residential zoning district, and that's area 400 feet. And what this will do is this is going to protect the municipality from becoming a thoroughfare with a sign on every property that is saying, "Hey, this is my business. This is my business." Now, to go
Well,
back.
I thought it said there could be a sign on every property.
There can be, that's for temporary signs. This is off-premise digital display. This is totally different. So there's temporary signs. Those are signs that do not need permits, and there's on-premise and off-premise signs. Those are all signs that need to get permits and follow these regulations.
And it's also setting the spacing at 1,000 feet between the signs.
Yes. So, and I can explain that as I go through. Let me just go back through just so we can go over the other portion of this, because the other portion is the message duration. The message duration is currently in the municipality is 20 seconds. Through the settlement agreement, they have negotiated 8 seconds, which is 1 second higher than what PennDOT's regulation minimum is for digital display. In my professional opinion, and I've tested this in different municipalities, and I urge everyone, if you're interested, to do the same. Drive down a road like McKnight Road that you can go the speed limit and count the seconds and see the number of seconds that you can see a sign. If you have 20 seconds and you're going 45 or 55 miles an hour, you're seeing 1, maybe 2 items. 8 seconds, you're still only going to see 1 or 2 items, and it's over what PennDOT's requirement is. So we're trying to find a middle ground for protecting the municipality in where these signs can go, while also meeting the requirement of we aren't allowed to say, hey, you're not allowed to have off-premise digital display signs. There has to be a location where these can fall within our zoning.
So are we
Um,
gonna change the regulations for on-premise digital display?
That's my next, that's
Okay,
separate,
sorry.
that's the next thing.
Sorry.
So off-premise, the edits, the off-premise digital display signs is purely related to the settlement agreement. Everything else is something that I've looked at through our zoning and is discussion pieces. These are items that, town council has looked at and has authorized for it to move forward on. What we're doing, I mean, we, as a planning commission, you still have we're still reviewing this. So if this is something, that people have issues with, it's something to bring up. But I just wanted to kind of justify that 8 seconds, because when you look, oh, we're going from 26 to 8 seconds, you might think that that's a pretty big, over a 50% decrease. But if you're in the context of what we're actually looking at, it's really not that big of a change. And the sign code already has mechanisms in place for digital displays in terms of the types of digital displays. Like you can't have something that fades in. Like all of the items that have already been reviewed for digital displays in terms of the requirements of like what can be shown, how it can be shown, how it can be changed. So that's what these adjustments are. And then the last adjustment recommendation that was something that I had put into the code was removal of section 1305-130E8E, which is a line that says the addition of a digital display to a non-conforming sign is prohibited. In my opinion, that text is a redundant section. It doesn't need to be in the code because it's saying something that's already said in the code. Like we have the code has a justification and regulations for non-conformities. So basically this is just saying digital displays to a non-conforming is prohibited because the code already says that if you have a non-conforming sign that you're changing, you have to bring it to code standards. So it's just a redundant text. And in my opinion, it just causes more confusion. So that's why I had it included into this recommendation. If I would say if there's any questions on off-premise digital display signs, we could maybe speak about those now, discussion, then we can talk about on-premise after that. So if there's any additional comments, I'd open that up right now.
My question is generally, I know it was discussed later, it probably applies to both.
Sure.
The illumination that the digital sign puts off, what is a good way, because I'm not familiar with how that mode of measuring brightness actually comes across.
So, and let me just.
And what can you compare it to?
So there are, I mean, there's like, I'll phrase this in terms of what a regulation is, and then I'll let you go from there. So essentially, when it comes to, digital displays, the requirement that our code has is in nits. So it's between sunrise and sunset, a maximum of 2,500 nits is permitted. Maximum of 250 nits is permitted between sunset and sunrise. So and then there's a couple different sections of where they talk about the transition, message display, brightness. It talks about, it says that digital displays containing animation, streaming, video, text, images which flash, pulsate, move, or scroll are prohibited. But in terms of like, if you're talking about code enforcement compliance, or are you talking
just visual to get a sense of what it is? So I'm thinking I'm coming north. This is Ross. But coming north by wherever the Aldi Plaza is, and then Ross Park Mall's up on the right. There's an LED sign there. I think every single one is how long the emergency wait time is at the AHN McCandless Hospital. What is that?
You're talking
in
like
terms of like the nits or the visual projection?
I don't know the answer, but I can look into that and get that info to you, because that's definitely something that, if we're going to review digital displays, it's something that we want to consider. I was not part of this, the zoning update 2023, as it wasn't with the municipality. I'm going to assume that they looked into these items, but that's not necessarily true. So what I can do is I can look and see into some other neighboring municipalities and just generally speaking, how people handle illumination and, nits and how they would relay that and what that regulation actually means. Right, because I read 2,500 nits and I'll be honest, I don't know what that means. I'm not a light engineer or a electrician, so.
So my point of comparison too is, again, if we're in Ross, and we're at that jug handle by Block at Northway, and you're going north to go left up to like BJ's, there's that massive sign there.
Right.
And that's at some point is like the brightest thing in the world when it's right there. It might be the elevation,
The
but
one
like,
that's on the wall, Brendan?
yeah,
Yeah.
that like frequently has half the bulbs burned out.
Oh, does it?
What is that brightness? Just as trying to compare.
I don't know.
different-
I'll look into
different
it, see if
media.
we can find the answer.
I looked it up and it says a typical phone screen ranges from 300 to 1,000 nits.
Your
But it's
portable
pretty
phone?
small.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if we're looking at 250, is that what you said?
That's what the current minimum regulation for night is 250.
It says 250 to 400 is sufficient for standard indoor viewing. Outdoor is 800 to 1,500. So maybe that's 800 to 1,500. Professional outdoor signs, 5,000 to 10,000.
And I'm just going to bring this up too, because this is another thing that maybe in the context I should have started with. This is our zoning map currently. So I just want to show people where these signs could be with where these are. So in the MC district only, which is the brown, and along McKnight Road. So there's two sections of MC in the municipality, which is down here by Vincentian and up here by the along McKnight when you're getting closer to town hall.
So on the corner of Perrymont.
Yep,
Yeah.
on the corner of Perrymont. So, I mean, the number of signs that can actually be established with this regulation is minimal.
Yeah.
So with the two signs that have been negotiated with the municipality, both of those items are, we're trying to make sure that we're trying to protect ourselves from all of these signs. So in terms of like the number of signs, there's only room for a few. So just in context, I just wanted us to keep in mind that these regulations, the way that they're written here, will only constitute for allowing a few of these signs in the municipality. Just so we know that we're not talking about like 100 signs down a
Can I just
corridor.
ask though, will we be challenged that it's a reasonable challenge? How are we going to justify that we're only allowing the MC on the
Yeah,
night, not on
so
19?
and I don't know if you have any context for this, but from what was relayed to me and from what was relayed from our town manager and Steve Corbel, the town attorney, they have reviewed that for compliance with other, municipalities and for.
So, I mean, but have we written a rationale as to why 19 is different than truck route 19? McKnight is different from Perry Highway? I'm just asking that maybe.
Yeah, I don't think they would have like a written memo necessarily.
Yeah.
It might exist.
It might be a good idea, because if I'm a developer, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna challenge you, you got an MC over there. And it's a state road,
Yeah.
and,
So from our perspective, this complies with the comprehensive
Mhm.
plan. And that obviously is a factor. And then when we look at exclusionary zoning, it's pretty difficult to
Yeah.
argue that an ordinance is exclusionary. We would have to outright exclude or say that it's not really feasible to put one in. And we feel that this allows enough space without allowing them to be.
that's actually a really valid reason on why it wouldn't be allowed on Perry Highway, because 400 feet from a residential, you're probably not gonna get.
Right, and,
So-
and that was thought of whenever they were negotiating, like that was something that they reviewed and they look at different.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. This is a discussion piece. This is the purpose of this. So just to continue moving forward, just so we can, because this will be brought up, at the next meeting. On-premise signs. So this is I'm going to tie this into what will be the future zoning update that will come in front of this planning commission and our town council. So this is me. There's a few key on-premise sign issues that I've identified in the municipality that I wanted to bring up to the planning commission and the public to get comment before I go and put together something that is more formal. As you know, I wasn't here for the 2023 zoning. As I've spent the last 7 months with the municipality, I found that there's been a number of people that, particularly in the neighborhood center district, which is our MN district, there's a couple questions in terms of that district. And so what we're going to be doing is looking at that district again in comprehensively to make sure that those regulations are kind of what was intended and what was wanted. So whenever it comes to these on-premise signs, this is an image along West Inglemoor Road. This was taken a couple weeks ago. Every single sign that is in this picture is non-conforming. That's on premise is non-conforming in this district. Now, it may have been the intent, and so why I wanted to bring this up is because there's when it comes to ordinances, you could do things however you want to do them. In my opinion, and from what I've seen in terms of on-premise signs, my slide just deleted, apologize. So when it comes to on-premise signs, we have 3 different freestanding items for how we break up freestanding signs. I'm going to pull that up right now. But what that is, and just to explain it so people are aware, is we have a freestanding monument sign, freestanding pylon signs, and freestanding pole signs. What those signs are: monument sign is you're affixed to the ground, no clearance between that sign. Basically, your ground level stone. You could think like a stone monument sign. That's one type of sign. That's a freestanding. There's pole signs, which are you have one pole that goes up, and you have a sign on top of the pole, and then there's pylon signs, which is you have 2 poles, and they sit on top of that. So now what the municipality is facing, and it is the decision that we need to discuss, in my opinion, and talk about, is the regulations for these freestanding signs in the MN district. And so just to go over what these current regulations are. So the number of signs that you can have in the MN district are 2 signs are permitted per lots fronting 1 street. 3 signs are permitted on lots with 2 or more streets, and up to 1 sign may be a freestanding per lot. If you go down through the MN district, there is the monument signs, which is permitted. There's one permitted with a maximum sign area of 32 square feet, maximum sign height of 8 feet, and then the regulations with that. Pole signs and pylon signs are not permitted in the district. Every sign that was shown and runs along West Inglemoor is a pole sign or a pylon sign. Now, whether or not that was the intent of the ordinance, I wasn't here for that. And that was in the past, and now we're at where we're at now. We've had a number of variances that have been approved and gone through the zoning hearing board related to signs, and a number of individual property owners who have contacted me regarding these regulations, essentially with concerns with these regulations. And why I wanted to bring this specific topic up as more of a discussion rather than me bringing some type of edited ordinance is because I don't know if, in my opinion, I think that it would be easier for the municipality to have a freestanding sign, one requirement for freestanding signs that would, because that's pretty, I would say that's pretty traditional zoning mind frame, where this is more of a, looking at the form. But what the issue is these signs are meant, this district is meant for neighborhood, smaller business neighborhood center. That's what this district is. And we've now limited smaller businesses from, having these signs that are, showing their business is,
Yeah, but
is
I
really
think-
what their opinion
I
is.
think the intent was that that particular district, you're not driving fast. You're going 30 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour. It is a small, supposed to be a small development, and therefore having signage that isn't, a big pylon or whatever was more to fit the character of that neighborhood district. That was the discussion.
Now, and I
Do you
think
remember
that's,
that, Sean? I do.
and I do think that, and from what I've read, I do think that in the 2023 zoning, one of the changes that was made to these signs was, was to West Ingomar. But the issue is West Ingomar isn't the only location for
Right.
MN district signs. I mean,
Right.
and I'll just show you, I'll pull
Yeah,
up
show us
my
the districts
zoning
again.
district.
Yeah. It's all of McKnight and.
So, yeah,
Highway
it's,
too.
we're talking, what the MN district is, just so we all are aware of what we're actually talking about and where it's located within the municipality. You have West Ingomar, which is over here, which is a small section here.
Yeah.
We have the section of MN that's located kind of in the central area of the municipality near our TC and what we discussed tonight. Our MN district down along Perry Highway, and then over along Duncan Manor, down that stretch, and then
Over in Peebles.
half of McCandless Crossing as well. So that's what these regulations are for these items. Now, I gave a presentation at the previous town council meeting, giving an overview of the future zoning change, which will come in front of everyone at some point. One of my concerns and one of the issues that I saw from the zoning change in 2023 is that, and I can't remember off the top of my head, I think it was 17 districts that we had previously that we went to now 11 or 9 districts. So we went from having more commercial districts to now having only essentially 3 commercial districts and 2 institutional or like CD or civic district. So now we have less variety of regulation for different types of uses within the district. Because in my opinion, it's hard to regulate McCandless Crossing and Duncan Avenue and Duncan Manor and also West Ingomar, the strip of West Ingomar that is meant for more of a traditional neighborhood center. Now, is this plan meant for the future also? Yes, it is. But what we need to realize is that, these signs that I showed in that picture they're not going to go anywhere. I mean, the Coons property sign that you saw was just approved at the last zoning hearing board meeting to be approved. They have a variance to update their sign to a digital display sign, and they've received a variance for that. So the issue I have is that we have this sign ordinance and we have these regulations, but if if our zoning hearing board sees these regulations and doesn't necessarily agree with that, we either have to challenge their decision or we have to update our regulations to meet
was their
what the
basis?
regulations are.
What was their basis for allowing that?
Their basis for allowing that was that they're on the corner of that intersection, and that every other property has a digital display. The J&M Automotive, the Marathon Automotive, the
Are they
bank,
all pylon signs?
they're all pylon or they're all non-conforming digital displays. All of them are non-conforming signs that
Were they officially approved?
they were approved prior to the zoning, so they were changed. So now they're non-conforming.
Yeah.
But their justification is that it wasn't impacting the.
So then what's the point of having the regs if they're just gonna say?
But what I want to say there is that brings up something to me, in my opinion, where this is something that we need to review as a group, because you have so many people that are coming in with variances. Whether the result is that we say that it should stay as it is and not change it, that might be what the result is, but it's something that needed to be brought up in the sign ordinance, needed to be discussed. And, I kind of wanted to open that to the public and to the planning commission so that we can talk about, what we think in terms of what I just spoke about. So I can kind of gauge people's interest, and then staff can put together an ordinance that we can then come together at a new meeting, review again, comment on, and then make a motion to approve or go back and review it again. Now there is a constraint for the off-premise signs in terms of, if that gets approved, with our current doctrine. So there is,
That'll have to move.
that's something that will have to move. So what I'm looking at is, I would like us to make an adjustment to our sign ordinance that we feel meets with our current zoning ordinances. And then if we go to the zoning ordinance review, and in that review, we look at, say, the uses and the zoning districts, and we look at more comprehensively what I said in terms of all of these different neighborhood center districts. And we review it in terms of possibly changing regulations at a further date, because that's what's going to happen. So I wanted to get some feedback before staff went and put together something that was going to, be brought up. You are permitted, yes.
Does the ordinance currently contain any language regarding a sign that's on a property that's changed hands or is no longer being used and could be an eyesore?
It has regulations that it has to be removed within a certain time frame.
So it's funny that you mentioned that too, because today I was reading through these sign ordinances and I was looking at some of the neighboring municipalities, and I saw that section in a few of the different ordinances, and I was like, I need to check that, but I wasn't able to review before the meeting. Definitely something that we should think of, because there are a number of signs in this municipality that you go up Ignite Road and there's a big Empire sign that I see there. In terms of looking at that regulation, I definitely think that's something that we should consider, as it's, it causes an eyesore if a business leaves and they just leave their sign up. So we need to have some type of backing for enforcement, because what the issue is if it's not listed in our code, then we can't enforce as municipal staff. But I'll pull it up and just check and see. That's something that we should look at, though. It's just, I wish I had the entirety of the sign code memorized. I just don't.
I thought the intent was to include that. So if it isn't here, and with a certain time frame after the business went out of business, to be removing the sign.
Yeah, if I recall, and I believe it was either Cranberry or Hampton, and don't quote me on that. They had some type of text that I think limited it to 30 days after a business closes, or an on-premise sign, say, would not be in use, that it would then have to be removed.
And removed means remove the structure.
Removed means remove the text, not the structure.
So it could be just a white blank surface.
Yeah, there's nothing there's no legal bounds for us to say that you have to get rid of your structure. In the same way that if somebody has a vacant building that isn't like a nuisance, I can't say you have to demo that in 30 days. It's the same concept.
The only exception would be if it's dangerous.
Yes, if it's going to fall down.
Officer, deems it's
Unsolicited, my view is that at a certain point in the town, aesthetics have to start mattering.
Yeah.
And I get why the zoning board decided what the zoning board apparently decided, but I think that monument signs, and fewer of them, are generally more attractive. And to the point raised earlier, if you have a neighborhood district where people are supposed to be going slower and people are probably familiar with what's there anyway, because they live there, having a gigantic pylon or pole sign on every single corner, telling you the competing 1 cent difference in gas prices is just, it's not visually appealing for the type of areas that we're trying to foster in that district.
And it's actually been proven that more signs is not necessarily better for the businesses. That if we actually regulated it so that everybody got to the point where they were complying with the code, it would be better for the businesses.
And that's the thing too, is kind of why I wanted to bring this to the discussion piece, is because we could change these regulations, or we could not change these regulations, and that the signs that are still there are still there. So it doesn't change what's already there. It's just looking in the future if we want to review that regulation, and that's why I wanted it to be a discussion.
If you're getting that many variance requests and they're approving them, then I think we need to evaluate it. I would agree with evaluating it, not necessarily changing it, but putting more weight behind it so that the zoning board doesn't ignore the intent.
Because then you just have a self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, they're all here anyway, they're all non-conforming anyway, so you might as well keep going. Whereas if we say, no, we really mean like, we want fewer of these things, I would lean in that direction versus, might as well throw up some more signs, because why not?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I agree.
Can I ask you a question about the off-premise? We have signed a lease, or is it the lease proposed for those two signs that are being permitted? One at Reichhold and the other one at Paramount, I think is where they're going to be.
Yeah, it was an ordinance that was
The resolution was
passed.
that authorized the execution of those leases.
And have we executed the leases?
I believe so. I can't say for certain if they've been actually signed or not. But it's part of the settlement agreement. So
But I know it's a settlement agreement, but I was struck by what I thought was a abysmally low price of $5,000 for those signs, for the lease, annual lease for those signs.
So partially, and I don't want to get too into the weeds of the negotiations, but partially that has to do with the fact that the town will get free advertising on those signs. So for town meetings and whatnot.
Well, but what I would like to understand, and I don't, what is the revenue that those signs generate annually? And I bet it's a bundle of money. And I think a lease, if I were running this business, I would take a percentage of the total revenue that sign generates. I granted them the right to have that sign, putting it on my property, the town. And for $5,000, I bet they make that up in revenue in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. I think it's important to take all of the context into consideration, and the fact that the proposed areas were undesirable locations that would have impacted residents, and having them move them was part of that negotiation to different locations. The towns received benefits from the negotiation of getting to include town information, and I think it's gonna include it's like built of stone. It's gonna include like the town of Mechanics' name on it.
I saw a picture of it, and it's a nice looking structure, but
So I think it was a little bit of a unique discussion rather than if someone had just approached the town, but I think that's something we discussed with.
yeah, I think those signs are worth way more than $5,000.
Do those signs count on the 1,000-foot, or are they exempted from the 1,000-foot?
So those signs are like, those signs those signs can't exist if we don't pass off-premise sign regulations, and town council accepts those. We've negotiated those agreements, so town council wants to accept those adjustments. It's something that they've pushed for. In terms of, I believe they have been executed. But it's something that, that review comes, like those signs would still fall under the approval of whatever we approve here in terms of our code. Like, they're not exempt from regulation still.
Yeah,
It's just,
They wouldn't be considered non-conforming either. They would be considered under the ordinance.
yes, and that was kind of how it was crafted, was through that negotiation, I believe, was that they were trying to figure out, in terms of like where these signs can be located, so that they're, basically minimizing the number of potential additional signs with that separation.
Do we have an overlay of what that would actually look like in terms of the area?
I don't have one. I definitely could put that together for you, but I can say I'm fairly certain that if, where the signs are located, I don't believe that there's many options for additional signs. There may not be locations for more signs. I don't know that off the top of my head, but from what was described and discussed to me, this regulation is meant to harbor limiting any future, signage to essentially pollute McKnight Road. That's what this is.
They backdoored it.
So they're trying to, that's what this negotiation really was, is trying to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. So that's why council has pushed to, make that these adjustments to off-premise signs, but we still, as planning commission, we're still reviewing it to make sure that we feel that it meets the character of our comprehensive plan and, is going to protect our residents.
You want comments from us?
If anyone wants to comment, you're welcome to speak. I mean,
If we
It's-
send comments. Oh,
if you want
sorry.
public, you're welcome to come up and speak if you want to come up. I mean, you can sit there and speak too. That's fine.
Jackie Rizzo, 187. Where our house, and our property is in the neighborhood setback. Just so you know, we physically as a resident, we send it down, so. And we're right across the street from retail. Gas, and it's not too bad that the front of our house, like, I think you need to understand, like, people do live along these roads, which you guys mentioned. I wasn't sure when you say off premise, when it comes to that kind of thing. All those signs are on the buildings over there.
Yeah, so those are on-premise signs. So on-premise signs are anything that is a sign that is saying, hey, my business is here. That's an on-premise sign. Wall sign, on-premise sign. These off-premise signs we're talking are freestanding off-premise signs. Basically your pole with your billboard on top. I mean, that's really what this is trying to make sure that we're not allowing ambiguity in a bunch of different signs along.
Remember Lady Bird Johnson, who made all the signs, billboards come down on all the highways?
Yeah, right.
They're sneaking back. Yeah.
Well, this one, Dover Saturday, they're not even a business anymore, and their sign is bright white, big as you could get. I can't imagine it. And it only comes on at 12:30 a.m. and it goes off about 8 a.m. It's not on during the day. So, I was wondering if that was part of your, looking at this stuff.
Well, so that's different. That's an on-premise sign in the town center. So we're not even considering looking at on-premise sign regulations for wall signs. We're just looking at signs that are freestanding. But through this, I mean, I'm definitely going to take that comment and look at it. There are standards for lighting and signage. And there's, like we just kind of mentioned, there's requirements for illumination. If they're doing something that is, breaking the ordinance at nighttime, like I definitely will make sure that I have somebody take a look at that.
Yeah, like anybody at Newhart and us, anybody that's facing any commercial or the neighborhood center, like that dentist office, how are we gonna know what kind of sign we're gonna put?
Right, yeah, I mean.
Bagging the variance request in the grant. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I thank you for your comments. It does really help. I appreciate it.
So that would be handled through a sign separately.
Yeah, but I thought we'd asked previously for signs to be shown on plans so we can think about it in part of the context of the whole thing. So if we're sending comments to you, would it be better if the entire planning commission were?
Well, I was more so having comments, like I wanted to have an open discussion. Anna, in terms of planning commission members that wanted to give context at something, I know that planning commission, there's requirements that they can't meet. Are they able to provide me with comments to an item through via email or something along those lines if it's just directly to me?
Yes, directly to just you,
Yes.
that's okay. We cannot have quorum
Yep.
on an email chain. Just because
Okay,
of
so
the-
individually, we don't copy the other.
Individually, you can
Okay.
send them straight to Matt,
Okay.
and then you can have chains with just less than a quorum, so maybe there's 7. So, yeah.
I'll say this just for me. If we're gonna have like any type of comments that you have, just please email them directly. I don't want to have any type of like planning commission type of discussions outside of this room.
Right.
And what I would do with any of those comments is I will have them at the next meeting, and if, they'll be open to any public, if the public wants to see those, I'll have this available. That way, people know what's going on. Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the discussion and the presentation and to your remark at the end about sharing the comments. That's really nice.
Thank you.
For some of the attendance meetings. And I really, the map, it would be so nice if it was, there was I think Bruce Betty used to have his zoning map. Former, it would be nice if we had a big printout of that.
Would he have one he'd bring one with him here?
He had a big one.
Okay.
I guess it's disappeared. It was like maybe like, it was bigger than the 20 square feet. But it was, I think I remember in his office, he was so proud of that map. And it would just, if that one was around,
He was me. He was two before me.
Oh.
It's funny, that map might be hanging up on the wall back there, to be honest.
Isn't
with
it,
you. There's a huge map.
the restrooms?
We do have a big map, right here. I'm not certain. That's definitely something I can look at. Like we have maps back there that we could bring. That way we at least have,
not that, and sometimes the terms are MN, MU, MC.
Yeah, they're all very
don't
close.
really roll off your tongue. But it would be nice, like maybe the history center, but it would be nice to have the old map too. What used to be there.
Yeah, I actually do think
Reference
our
between the old and the new.
our GIS online, I do believe it does have current and old zoning. We have a zoning map. But I'll definitely check. I do think it would be valuable to have, access to like where things are, and that's why I bring it up. I mean, it's
Just for the purposes of the discussion, it's nice to see.
yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. So that takes care of that. I was thinking with digital signs, you can't really regulate the white, right? Because you're gonna have multi-colors anyway, because that blue light at night is bad. But I don't think that's feasible. So that's it. I had time to sit here through the other discussion and I printed out the current sign ordinance and then the proposed changes. And I guess it saves on printing, but just to kind of see what's there and to see the red line changes.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I said. Whenever ordinances are written, typically sometimes they're written in that fashion, and that's why whenever I bring some type of further ordinance, I wanted it to be the complete sign ordinance so people could get the context. So yeah, I do agree with you that whenever we do have some type of ordinance update, that it need more information.
Okay. And then under illumination, I had a question.
Sure.
There's the removal of letter E, the addition, I don't think it's P. I think it's 5E.
The addition of digital display to a non-conforming sign is prohibited.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you explain why you?
I can re-explain it just so you're aware. So our code has a section for non-conformities. That applies to the sign code already. So I felt that it was redundant to have that in the sign code because it's literally saying a non-conformity it's saying like a non-conformity can't change, but like that's already said in the zoning. So that's it was more of a clarification. I mean, that could stay in there. I just felt like it, as a professional, it just didn't really. There's a couple ways that these ordinances that can be written that can lead towards like more of like a flavor text rather than like a regulation text. And to me, that was one of those that was kind of like they wanted to make sure that we know that non-conforming digital display signs can't happen. So they put it there, but like in practice, non-conformities. Like if there's a process for changing those, so and that applies to that.
And then I was under the impression that I guess I thought the lease had already been executed too, and so I was confused as to why changes needed to be made for a lease that's already been executed. But I understand that there were 2 signs that had been withdrawn. I sort of thought that maybe these were being done for the withdrawn signs. that those two ones that there's already agreed with.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, so the lease can be executed before the signs are constructed, right? So we need these provisions in the ordinance to be in effect by the time the actual structure is ready.
And they still need to get permits too, is the thing. Like, they still have to come through my office and get permitted to construct these. So if, like, let's say we're like, nope, no, we're not changing any regulations for our signs. They can't do what they're doing. I mean, I would have to deny it, and then they'd have to go through that process. I don't think that's what, that's not the intent of what we want here.
They understand what the regulations are, so we don't think that will necessarily happen, but the leases do provide, and the settlement agreement provides for the town to review for compliance, and provides a reasonable time period for review. And to address your comment about the withdrawal of those applications, the lease agreements do address that. So they were part of the negotiated settlement agreement, those two withdrawn applications, and then also the one that was denied back in 2024. So this is to accommodate all of their previous submissions.
And to be honest, what the purpose of this review is to review the items on the sign ordinance. I mean, we're not necessarily reviewing what town council has done for leases. We're not reviewing. I just wanted to provide that context so that we know why this has been brought in front of the planning commission. Just to clarify. I mean, I know we've talked a lot about the lease agreements, but that's something that's not under the purview of this planning commission. And I just wanted to clarify that. Did you have anything else, Ellen? Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? Anybody from the planning commission?
No. I'll look at on premise and send you comments.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's comments.
Okay. We've had general public comment for all this time. So the last item on the agenda is for us to adjourn. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second from someone?
Yep.
Second from Shelley. All in favor of adjourning? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
I couldn't find, I could have sworn it was in there.